Welcome to Bizemag's Global HR Virtual Summit 2022. Our guest of honor and guest speaker is Dr. Jerry Gule from South Africa. Welcome, Dr. Gule, to our today's summit session. I will introduce Dr. Gule to my audience through a brief biography. Dr. Gule is the CEO of Institute of People Management. He held professional membership in the IPM since the 1980s. He is also a fellow of Institute of Directors, South Africa. Dr. Gule is a staunch supporter of people development and an experienced HR professional who has practiced his craft in different organizations and sectors. He is one of the founding directors of Gule Executive Coaching Limited and practices as an executive coach. Dr. Gule is an active participant in courses that he is passionate about, including the mainstreaming of persons with disability in the economy. This is well demonstrated by his involvement for many years as chairperson of the South African Employers for Disability. He also served as an advisor to the Eskom Disability Steering Committee for some time. Dr. Gule is also chairperson of the Love Trust, a charity organization serving the underprivileged children in the Johannesburg. He is a lead independent non-executive director at the Aurum Institute and is also a member of the HR and Remuneration Committee. Being the chairperson of the Board of Aurum Innova, a subsidiary of the Aurum Institute, he is a non-executive director of First National Bank, Eswatini, and chairperson of the Remuneration Committee. He and Dr. Gugu Gule, his wife, have 3 children and 2 grandsons. Welcome to our show once more. So, Dr. Gule, as we were discussing, Dr. Gule is interested in sharing some of his thoughts and experience on the topic of people management, rebuild trust and resilience. And mainly, he will talk about pillars for humanizing work and the workplace for sustainable results. So may I ask Dr. Gule, what are the pillars, and can you please share your screen so that our audience also has.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you. I will just put up the screen now, my presentation. Thank you for a wonderful welcome to this session. So you invited me, and you as you well so well put it out, that the talk really is around what are the pillars of humanizing the workplace for sustainable results. That's what I would like to talk about, and it is an honor and a privilege for me to be part of this global event, the HR Global Summit that has been running since January this year, it is really a pleasure for me to be part of the guests here, and I hope our audience is going to benefit from our interaction this morning. If I can move my presentation forward. I'm not sure why the screen seems to be frozen at the moment. There we go. Okay, so why is this important? It is important because this is time for change. I mean, we're still going through this unprecedented change globally. Work itself has changed. So it is time for change. And change, I know it's something that not all of us take to it like ducks to water. There's always that resistance to change, but it is time for change. And Vanita, for me, it is such a privilege to be alive today, to be practicing our craft as HR professionals, to be leaders in this field. It's really an honor. And I hope at the end of my presentation that the audience will walk away really asking themselves the question, how should I show up differently, given this privilege that we all have to make a difference in people's lives? So what is it that I want to cover? I just want to talk about the fact that people are at the core of what we do. I want to talk about self-care, because as we go through change, as we go through what we're going through right now, it's so important that we take care of self. That's vital. Otherwise, organizations are not going to be what they should be if we're not taking care of self, if we're not taking care of who we are. We live in the so-called turbulent, uncertain, novel, and ambiguous world, the VUCA world, some people call it volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So we need to make sure that we take care of ourselves. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Then we'll come to these workspaces that are changing, rather that have changed and will continue to change, and then talk about the 5 pillars of creating a humane workplace. Because I believe that it should be. As we speak, wherever people are in the world today, someone knocking off work, maybe it was a great day, maybe it's not a great day for them. But the workplace should not, in my view, should be a place where we walk in, bouncing on the soles of our shoes, and walk out of our shoes, when we walk out feeling that I've made a contribution today. And it all takes leadership to do that. That's what I want to talk about. Okay, so Doc, you can pose any question anytime you like. If you feel like I can see if you want to ask a question. But here is the point. Organizations consist of people. So people are at the heart of what they do. So I have the image of the heart, and then I have this quotation from Zig Ziglar. You don't build a business, you build people, and then the people build the business. Sometimes we forget that fact, that when we bring people in, and for me, Doctor, what has been really sometimes amazing, as a coach, as a business leader, as an HR professional, but as a coach, one of the things that really grieves my heart is when I coach a client or a person who talks about their workplace and the leadership that that is presiding in that workplace, or the line manager. And the whole thing feels so painful. And that's why they are looking for someone to guide them, to help them to transform, to cope with the problems that they are facing. Because the workplace where people are at the heart of the organization can actually be clogged up by bad emotions. Now imagine the heart. If we say people are at the heart of this thing, imagine people who are not well, who are not feeling well, and we say that the heart of this organization, there has to be flow in this organization. If they are not, the organization itself is going to suffer. And we know, Doc, that if people are not well, the results are not going to be there, right? Now, if as a leader, our roles are, or as leaders, our roles are to create that conducive workplace. That's what leadership is all about. It's not about building stumbling blocks, for people, but it's how can I remove those stumbling blocks for you so that you can show up and bring the best game that you can bring. So I don't like grumpy bosses. I like, as bosses, we must bring happiness in the workplace for our people, for our employees, so that their hearts are in it. We talk about winning the minds, winning the hearts, and winning the hands. That all must be aligned. And our role as leaders is to clear that, to create this vibrant workplace, human workplace. Leaders must really understand the parts of their organization. This heart that we're talking about, the people. How are my people? How are the people in this organization feeling? And it's easy. How do you find out? You ask your people, right? That's how you can clear the veins, if I may use the image of the heart here. That's how you can clear any dust, any debris that might be, and I'll come to that later on. In this system, a leader's role is to make sure that that heart, the people, are pumping. Then you'll have a sustainable. So it's all about people. Yeah, business. The business of business is people. Again, this I've stolen from some of the Google images. At the center of all that we do, you can have the best strategy. You can have the best operations. In fact, you're not going to have the systems to operate. You can have the processes and everything else. You can have the money, the technology. But if your people are not attuned to make all this work, it's not going to be a successful business. So people management is at the core and is at the heart, and how we practice that as leaders is key. I challenge every leader, every supervisor in an organization to really ask themselves the question, how much do I know about my people? What kind of an environment am I creating here? Because if we're going to deliver performance and I chose Red Bull here because they are the champions, the current champions of Formula One, not because they're my favorite team, but because I will honor them because they're champions. Now this whole image here, you can have the best car, right? You can have the best machine, but if the terrain in which this is going to function is not set up for it, it's not going to perform at its best. Same with people. What are we creating in our own culture, in our own organization? Are we preparing the ground for performance? And again, I come back to what I said earlier. If you are going to find out what are the things that inhibit performance here, you ask the people. Now, I know some leaders are not really fond of getting feedback, because feedback is a very interesting thing. You know, when you ask people for feedback about yourself, about how operations are going, they will give you the good, the bad, and the really ugly. They'll give you all that. And the tendency for us as leaders is to resist that feedback, is to say, no, but that can't be true. A good student, a good learner from feedback sits back and say, okay, I've been given all this feedback. Is any of this true about us, about me, about our organization? Because in any feedback that you get, some stuff will be true, some stuff will be false. But you can't just reject it offhand and say, no, no, none of this thing is true. Good leaders take in feedback in order to create a culture that will enable performance, where this grand machine, this car can function. These people that you have can function at their best. Now, I like these words of which I said I will talk about self-care because I think it's important. One of this guy, Jesus Leon, who is quoted by in this journal of ICN journal in the Ukraine, says, if you are going to finish a race, right, sometimes you have to choose your strategies. You have to be fast, and sometimes you have to slow down, right? So that you can recuperate, you can gauge what's going on here. Because in order for you to win, you must remain in the race until the end. Yeah. So in order to come in up first, you must make sure that you are there, you are running to the finish. And I like the image of runners also, because once you are competing, but in fact, you are running your own race. You know yourself as you have been preparing for this. And the workplace is the same. The workplace is the same. And it's such a pity that when sometimes in organizations, you find all these silos where people, you know, operations and marketing are not talking, and you know, the HR is viewed in a certain way. It's as if we are fighting within the same organization. We forget that as an organization, we are running our own race and we must run it together. Yeah, you must run it together to the finish. So I like this. So sometimes you've got to slow down. Slow it down enables you to think, to look around and to see what's happening. Sometimes we don't even take the time to pause and say, actually, what's happening around? What's happening in our organization? When we take the pauses for what, call it strategy sessions, how much time do you reflect, really reflect on the people side of the business? So self-care is important, both in terms of the collective and in terms of you as a person, as an individual functioning within this particular organization. You've got to organize, make sure that you organize your own self-care. So if we are going to be genuine, authentic people, we need to take the time, not to be running the rat race, as it were, but to take the time to reflect, to do what I call the self-care, spending time. And you know, sometimes, Doc, someone was saying, sometimes you keep the radio on or the TV on because you don't want, you know, night and day, there's noise around us because we don't want the silence, because silence enables you to reflect, yeah, to take care, to look inside. And that's what we need in our workplaces sometimes. As managers, as leaders, as employees, we need to reflect. How am I showing up? What am I doing? I sometimes pose this question to my audiences. If you reflect and you look at yourself as an employee, as a colleague to someone, we can bring it down to the level of the family, but let's just stay within the workplace. I ask the question, what kind of a colleague are you? Do you take the time to reflect, to do that self-introspection? How do I relate to my work colleagues? Do I enable them to be the best that they can be in the workplace. So what kind of a colleague are you? And of course, by extension, what kind of a leader are you? Are we still all right, Doc?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So in this VUCA world, there is no way in which you cannot exercise this thing that I call, because things are changing. As I started with change, things are changing all the time. And we know that the VUCA world requires different kinds of skills. We have been given, I picked up this list from the Gamma group, the Gamma's group. But we know work has changed. Yeah, the evolution of work is here. It is going to continue. It's not, this is not the end. I mean, the pandemic has catapulted us to a big change. Skills are changing. I remember in mid-2000s, we were talking about skills for the future. Well, we're in the future, and the future is always, of course, ahead. And I think these last 2 years or 24 months have shown us the kind of skills. I mean, some jobs have disappeared, and they've disappeared for good. A lot of people, we're doing this in 2 different continents today, talking, in fact, the audience is all over the world. But the fact is, work has changed. We're learning in different ways, and we need to be developing those skills. We need to understand where we are. And of course, organization design, then how we organize ourselves, even that has to change. I mean, we used to have these steep hierarchies, right? Because the world of work, organizations were created after the Second World War, all these structures, in fact, when all these structures were created. But we know that steep structures are falling. Yeah? If you're a hierarchical organization taking years and a lot of bureaucracy to have decisions made, you're going to be out of the business. So we need to reflect, find out where we are, where our organization is. And we know that hybrid is on the rise. Someone this week asked me, do you have a hybrid policy that I need to develop a hybrid policy for my workplace, because we have now accepted that we're not going to be in the office like we used to 100% of the time. Some employees are no longer going to come back and be here. They prefer working with, in fact, it's cheaper for the organization. I know of an organization that has slashed their office space by 75%. They say, we don't need this space. What does that mean? We don't take the time to stop and think, what are the implications of this? How do we need then as an organization to change? How do we need to help our people to adapt to these changes that are here? And we also know that it's no longer just, I mean, sometimes there was this whole focus on internal, only our employees. Now we know that we have to also be looking outside, because we now understand the fact that in order to thrive, in fact, you have to collaborate. Collaboration is one of those big skills that have come forward since this pandemic has hit us. It was always there. Yeah? The thriving teams are the teams that were able to bring that diversity in and collaborate and work well, and those organizations always perform. But now we know we've got to work with our ecosystem. Look internally as well as look externally. Who can support me? Some people can support you for a short time, and they deliver the job that needs to be delivered, and they leave you alone. But why are we talking about humanizing the workplace? Is because the traditional workspaces have been unfriendly. How do we know this? Yeah, some have been good. I mean, I mustn't diss everybody, because there've been some great leading employers in the world. But we also know that there've been really laggards, people that organizations that are really not have not been up there, cannot be classified as top employers. And we know this because if I know, Doc, you are into this whole research around bullying, harassment in the workplace. We should not even be talking about words like that happening under our watch in the workplace. And it pains me, because this is still the reality today. There are people who go to work, ask themselves many times, should I actually still be going to that workplace? Because it is degrading, it is inhumane. I'm talking about the fact that it is possible to create a place of work where people want to be there. Yeah, they want to be there and to be productive, because they enjoy the kind of colleagues, the kind of climate and culture that has been created by everybody, not just the leadership. Because culture is a collective. It can be, yes, it is directed from the top, but all of us have to live the culture, the values of our own organization. So where people feel that there's a sense, they have a sense of belonging to that particular workplace. And by the way, belonging is not really a thing that it's a nice to have. It is a must. It is a fundamental need that people need in organization in order to be themselves and to bring the best that they can be. It is something that needs to be there. It is innate in us, and it is universal. Wherever you are, wherever there are people, you want to feel when you join that group of people that you are accepted, that you are welcome. And of course, we know this from psychology. Abraham Maslow, many decades ago, told about this thing that we all want to feel we belong, right? So we may have those other needs now, but the fundamental need is that we all want to feel we belong in the workplace where we are, that we are wanted, that we are valued in the particular workplace. So belonging is key, because it makes us feel we're legitimate, therefore we can contribute in our best in this particular organization that we work for. So let me go now to what really are the 5 things that I want to focus on, I want to mention. The first pillar, if we are going to create a humane workplace, it is one where people feel it is sociable and it is compliant. It's a sense of family, right? Particularly, and I know I'm talking in the context when you talk about being compliant and so forth and so on, we're talking in the context of the pandemic, but this goes beyond that. It's where people feel they can really be part, they feel like they're part of this family. They're not feeling like they're coming into enemy territory when you come to the workplace. And in the coaching practice that I do, I sometimes come across clients who are looking for strategies, either to survive their current workplace because of the bombs that they have to dodge or the dynamites that they have to dodge. And it shouldn't be like that. It really frustrates me to say, here's a person who has talent, who has skills, and the organization has turned them into like, they're treating them like their enemy. They are the enemy in this environment. And we know of painful cases where, particularly when it comes to this whole thing of being bullied in the workplace, school or in society, wherever. I mean, this stuff has led to people taking their own lives, which is so unacceptable, because they just feel my workplace is no longer a place where I feel I belong, right? So if we're going to create a viable, sustainable workplace, let's make sure that it is sociable and it is compliant. It's where people can feel that this is my family. I can bring my best here in this organization. And we know I just listed some of the hallmarks of a strong family. So if your organization is to be like that, some of the things that people should feel that they appreciate. When last as a manager, as a leader, did you say to someone who works for you, I appreciate that work that you are doing. I appreciate you taking the extra time to deliver what you need to deliver. I trust you with the results of this organization. When people are feeling in doubt, that you go to them and say, I trust you can do this. Step up, you can do it. I'm here to support you. I don't think those are words that you hear often in our own environments. And I'm challenging the audience, all leaders and all colleagues on this call today. That's what you should be. That's how you should show up in the workplace. You must show up as someone who encourages. And why should we care actually about this? We should care about this, ladies and gentlemen, because none of us is here forever. Yeah, we're on stage for now, and we'll leave the stage for other people to come through and perform. So let's do the best that we can during our time. I really would like, I'm a big advocate of creating a conducive workplace, a workplace where all of us can bring their talents. So it's create a sense of family at work. I know the organization is not a family, but create it. What do you have to lose? You have everything to gain because you are going to have positive energy in that environment that we have created as a leader, as an employee. Second one is psychological safety. People should feel free that they have the freedom to be themselves. They don't have to be putting on a mask, yeah, hiding behind something. That they can call a spade if need be, with respect, of course. I'm not saying recklessly, but people should feel that, even when I experiment here, I have a safety net. There are people that are going to take care of me. It shouldn't be a case of, if this goes wrong, will anyone be by my side? So if we're going to create a conducive, humane workplace, a workplace that will deliver results, let people know that they're safe to be who they are, that they're not going to pretend or live their best self as they enter, or leave it at the gate as it used to be said in the past. That leave your brains and your concerns and who you are at the gate and just come in here and be be a robot, be a moron almost. We don't want morons in the workplace. We want people to bring the talents that when we're recruiting them for. So the freedom to share their thoughts in our organization, to express their concerns, to where we feel free that I can give this work to so and so because they are qualified to do it. And they will tell you if they don't feel on a particular day that they are ready to do that. So psychological safety is key. I mean, there's a lot that you can talk about it. There's a lot that has been said. I'm only skimming the surface but it's so critical, because if you want to see diversity in the workplace really coming to the fore, diversity of thought, of everything coming to the fore, to creativity coming to the fore, people must feel that it's a safe place in this environment to say what they need to say. We should not be having, organizations where the first instinct when things go wrong is who are we going to blame? If that's the culture, people will not feel safe in that environment. It should be a place of where, what can we learn if things go? Because in the workplace, things will go wrong. If things don't go wrong, it's because we are not doing anything. We are not really pushing the envelope. When you push the envelope, when you become creative, things are going to go wrong. And there's nothing wrong with things going wrong. We must learn from that. That's all that we should be supposed to do. Now, third one is culture. And I know that some of our speakers have, in this global summit have been talking about, they've referred to this thing, culture. It was Peter Drucker who spoke about the fact that culture can eat strategy for lunch, right? Well, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can have the best strategy, but if you have the wrong culture, it's not going to function. It's not going to work. Someone has said this, and I think it's a chap that actually teaches at INSEAD Business School, who's from India, and he speaks about the smell of the place. How does my workplace smell? Am I contributing a positive smell in this workplace, or am I really producing something that is stinking? I'm part of the stink in this workplace. Culture is key. So how we show up, what we bring of ourselves, that's going to help us as an organization, whether to grow or to shrink, to innovate, to be able to perform, to be able to adapt to change quickly, is the culture that we have created. So we need to make sure that we all collectively create the right culture so that we don't get eaten by our culture as an organization, but that we can thrive. So culture is key. Now, simply put, culture has been defined. How do we do things around here? And if we're doing things wrong, we should feel free. Then go back to psychological safety. I must feel free to say, stuff is not working here. We need to change this. I recall in one organization where I was employed to bring about change. I was an OD manager there to make sure that and we're rolling out the values of this organization. Now, in any organization, unfortunately, we regard the people that keep the place clean as if they are the lowest in the rank. But they are not, actually. They play such a critical role, particularly now we know the importance of health and safety has shown us during the pandemic that you need your cleaning crews to really make sure that the place is very clean, in short. And as we're rolling the values in this organization, the people who take care of the cleanliness of the environment said to me, no one respects our space in this organization. We feel like the most disrespected people here because, of course, we're not the managers, we're not the leaders, we're the cleaners. But why is it that our space is not respected? And they could talk to me because I was the guy driving the change, driving the values, ensuring that, and I valued, and there were ladies, I valued the input from those ladies, and they had put that to me. And I said to them, believe you me, we had a value called respect, right? And respect should not be reserved for a certain level in the organization. When we have a value called respect, it means it applies to everybody. Everybody has to live the value of this particular respect. And on the basis of that, they found their voice to say, you cannot be talking about values, talking about respect, but nobody respects our space. And it was only when they had made that known that they did not like people just dumping, doing anything on their part of the building where they stored their stuff, and people not respecting that corner, which was their office in this environment. So respect, culture is something that we live, and if you don't live it, we're not going to really survive as an organization. Long term, you can survive in the short term, but long term. So this is what enables sharing of information, sharing of knowledge, relating. And I remember earlier I said, you find silos in organizations, people like, we're not talking to so-and-so, we're not talking to finance, we're not talking to audit. We actually want to hide things from audit. You know, my slogan was to my team, you must love auditors, because auditors help you to find the things that you are not doing well and to come up with mitigating factors so that, or strategies so that you can improve. So you must love them. They will always find fault. That's their training. But it doesn't mean that by finding fault, they are your enemies. You still work for the same organization. Let's break down the silos. Let's share information. Right, so that's culture. Culture is key. And I say that's my third pillar of creating a vibrant, humane workplace. What kind of a culture are we creating? Is it a culture where we hold information or we share information? And I'm telling you now that for us to succeed, to be the best that we can, we're better off sharing, not holding and hiding information. Fourthly, I referred to hierarchical, strict hierarchies. We know workers forced us now to be networked. I mean, we are working remotely. There is no need to be, deferring to, of course, we must have procedures, clear procedures, but we're working remotely, we're working in ecosystems, we are collaborating. That's networks. I mean, that's why we have things like Facebook and all, LinkedIn and so, because you create networks and you share information. That's how I met with you, Dr. Agwal, basically through networking. And through that, we can share, we can develop, we can grow. So this is a critical pillar. And in fact, I may ask you, what's your network as a professional? Do you have people that you can go to when you need help? It's critical that we create these networks, and organizations that understand that they're in an ecosystem, that network. I think those are the organizations that are going to thrive in the future. There is, I mean, the word competition has been used before, that there is no longer competition, but we have to cooperate in as much as we deliver product or services to, but we can deliver them in different ways. We can, bring our best game forward. It doesn't matter. We shouldn't be seeing ourselves as really strict competitors, because we collaborate. We have to find those areas where we need to collaborate. So how is your network, and how is it serving you? Who are you close to? Who are you far from? And why are you far from those? What can you do to make sure that you can be close to the people that you need in order for you to be able to deliver the best that you can? I like this quote. A guy working for the Guardian in the UK says, I get paid well to do something I enjoy, and I'm surrounded by clever, funny, like-minded people. And for 40 or 50 hours every week, I feel isolated. Yeah? Why would you feel isolated when you have people around you? Goes back to that psychological safety that I was talking about. Do I feel free in this environment to be myself, to put my views across the table, to share my thoughts openly? Or am I told, you're too emotional, keep your emotions to yourself? What culture have we built here? Because isolation, unfortunately, has devastating consequences. You can't bring your best game if you feel isolated.
True.
You must feel you're part of the team. Formula One tells us or reminds us of all of this, that the teams that win are the teams that do very well in the pit stops. All right. Final pillar, before I end, is that sense of purpose, living beyond self. If we are going to create vibrant, sustainable workplaces that deliver results, everybody in that workplace must feel that they are delivering something bigger than themselves, that they are there for a sense of purpose. And that's why sometimes, and I love people with a sense of purpose, because even when the odds are against them, they say, I have not fulfilled my purpose yet. And part of that, I have not fulfilled my sense of purpose, is that they make their voices known then when things are not right, because they are not just there for the paycheck, the salary. They are there to fulfill a sense of purpose. And until that purpose is served, and those are people who choose careers or jobs, they don't fall into jobs out of desperation. Yes, I know sometimes desperation kicks in, particularly at a time like now, when in the environment where I am, jobs are scarce. There is no question about that. We're 40% in unemployment where I am at the moment. And this is youth unemployment is at as high as 67%. So there is a sense of desperation. So people can take any job. But please, even when we have done that, in order for you to deliver, you need to come back and say, okay, I've got this. How can I turn this and make it positive and fulfill my purpose as I do this? Because if you are doing something that your heart is not in it, you do it half-heartedly. You mess yourself up and you mess those around you up, because you're not going to deliver the best that you can. So a sense of purpose is the final pillar, and leaders should engender that in the workplace, that everybody find that their jobs are meaningful and they have a sense of purpose in what they do. So that's the last pillar. But let me conclude by saying, we're here to learn, and my belief is that we're just like any other generation, we're at the beginning of our own learning as we learn to cope with the new dynamics, with the new changes that we face as a world today. The workplaces are resetting, and I think they will continue to reset because we don't know where the future is really going to look like. And we must then be prepared to learn, relearn, learn again, because that's just how things are going to be. And I do think that all economy, architecture, and behaviors will have to give way to new ones, to emerging ones. There's a new, and we should, we should feel comfortable with change. I know change is sometimes you say change is difficult, but it's just our response to it, our attitude to change. But I think that we must embrace the new things that we need to learn, that we need to see in order to thrive in this new environment. We know that workplaces have to embrace diversity and inclusion. There is no question about that. If they are going to be sustainable, if they are going to be vibrant, if they are going to deliver the results that they need to deliver. And all people must feel in the workplace that they're at home and that they are indeed at work. So we must feel free, wherever we are, we should be people that are feeling free to make our contribution. And of course, we must exercise the most appropriate leadership styles and leadership development models for this change and changing world that is going to continue to manifest. It's been interesting to see the reverse mentoring as we adapt to new technologies that have come through, that the young generation is adaptable to technology. The old generation, the baby boomers like myself, have to adapt them. But we can learn these new tricks. We can allow the young people to help us to learn these new technologies and to apply them in the most appropriate way. Let us be open-minded. And lastly, how we show up, our own being as leaders is critical. Are we showing empathy? Are we showing care? Are we being authentic as we interact with our teams? Because that's what the world, that's what the workplace needs if we are going to be successful as we deliver value to our shareholders, to our stakeholders the world over. I end with this message. We must live out what we profess. So when we say all races and ethnicities are welcome here, all religions, all countries of origin, all gender and identities, all sexual orientations, all abilities and disabilities, all spoken languages, all ages, everyone is welcome. We stand here with you. You are safe with us. Is that what our employees feel when they walk through the gate, through the door of our offices, of our workplaces that we have created using those 5 pillars I was talking about, that they feel, yeah, this is my home. This is where I can be. I can be here every day because I find energy and it's positive. Doc, that's my presentation. That's what I wanted to share with the audience today.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I am left with no question because you have so very well covered every point. Why do we need a healthy workplace? What are the significances? What are the 5 pillars? What makes a workplace happy workplace? And how we can engage talented people to remain. This is also a way to retain talent at the workplace. And what I found, that the 5 pillars that you talked about, particularly the first 3, are the pillars which we maintain and we try to maintain when we are in a family also. In family also, we want the members of the family to follow a culture, a happy culture. If you have certain problem outside the family, you feel like, I will go home, relax with my family members, share my thoughts. Same way workplaces should be maintained and managed. I should be happy when I sleep down. I know tomorrow I have to go to my office. I should feel happy about it. I should feel energetic about it, that I'm going to certain place. And it won't happen if we do not follow these 5 pillars, the most essential ones. So thank you so much, Dr. Gule. You have beautifully covered every aspect that I could have asked.
Thank you.